This is my stepdaughter, Susan. She was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. She was struck and killed by lightning in 2006. To have the chance to talk to her again, knowing she can't come back in the body, that's the why. To have a chance to know she's okay, that I'll see her again, that's the why. And then to get evidence that she really does still exist and can literally talk to us now, but not with a voice box, is life-changing. That's why I do this work. And it's because I know what it feels like to want to know love never dies.
Hey, Guy here. Welcome to my podcast. Today, I welcome back the beautiful Suzanne Giesemann and a beautiful conversation. You could probably hear in my voice that I'm a little bit tired, but I'll explain why in a little bit. But what I love about Suzanne is that her background as a ex-Navy commander, it's a very different world to the very conversations we're having these days. And she's very heart-centered, very real, and says it as it is. And I really feel like we connected to the emotion, the essence of a conversation today that's just not surface, but goes deep, which is always beautiful. We lean into spiritual awakenings, spirituality and our emotions and our resistance to them, and also the parting of loved ones and grief, and actually reconnecting to them on the other side, which is a conversation I'm always intrigued in, and hear different people's perspectives of what really is spirituality and what really is, I guess, the fabric of the universe, and allowing us to have this opportunity called life. So I have no doubt you're enjoying it. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to let me know in the comments what you got out of the podcast. Let me know where you're living in the world. Let's continue to connect. I love seeing comments pop up when they random places I never would even thought of while I'm here in this little surf town in Australia. And what I will say as well, I've just come back from a 5-day retreat, our Mastering the Inner Mystic, and we spent 5 days with 30 beautiful souls, plus the support team and myself, Matt and Petra, and it's extraordinary, exquisite what is possible when you bring a group of people together for 5 days and get people out of their environments. I just feel blessed to be able to do that. So I'm just slowly recovering, hence why I sound like I do. But what I will mention as well, we got 1 or 2 spots left in Bali. It's pretty much sold out for June, July 2024. And then we've got 1 retreat we're opening up in September in Australia in 2024 as well. So that'll be it. They're all selling out. Be quick if you want to come and join us. It'd be awesome to meet you in person. And I'm sorry, apologies for the long intro. If you're still watching me, great. If not, you can skip to the conversation. But what I will mention as well is that we actually do live streams within our community. So for instance, in the retreat we actually did an intention healing session, which was absolutely beautiful. And our community was able to log in from Zoom and actually join the energy and support in the healing as well, and have an experience from their own bedroom as well. So we do have an ongoing community where we want to bring people together and utilize Zoom and the power of community. So if any of that tickles your fancy as well, and you want to learn more about that, it's all in the links below, livingflow.co. Anyway, let's go over to Suzanne. It's a beautiful conversation, and much love. See you soon. Suzanne, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Guy. I love returning to the show. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I was excited to have you back, especially after the success of the first show as well. Certainly got a lot of incredible feedback. It seems like a hot topic at the moment for people, the very things that you cover. So
that's good, because it's my passion, and my husband can only listen to me talk about it so much. So if I get to share with all of you, that's great.
Exactly. I think my wife's tired of me talking about it half the time too. So look, the first question I want to ask you is, because obviously your brand new book is coming out very shortly, and congratulations, by the way. I think anyone that
it's out. Look, here it is. Oh, let me get it.
Yeah, grab it. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Ta-da. I love it.
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah. Yeah, I think anyone that puts a book out is such an achievement, you know, and the work and dedication it can take to getting a message out there to the world. So congratulations, first of all.
Well, thank you. It's a thrill, and the biggest thrill though is that I know that the material in this one is something people have been asking for, the how-tos of connecting with spirit and getting to know who we are, living the awakened way. And until now, I haven't had it in one book. So this is exciting for me.
Yeah, phenomenal. So the first question I was pondering on this morning, and I thought, oh, that'd be a nice place to start the podcast actually, is what does awakened mean to you? And I tell you why, because I find that, like, because I'm in front of a lot of people each month, probably 200 to 300 people every month, and I get to see firsthand personal feedback in front of people. Okay. And quite often there feels like everyone would say, I'm awakened. And quite often their identity is so wrapped up in their spirituality, it's keeping them blind to what's actually needed to be resolved in some ways as well. So, so I'm curious to know, how would you define awakened?
Awakened is having made that shift from no longer identifying with you as only human, but knowing that you are also expanded state of consciousness, divine, a soul, and much more. So this awareness comes and goes because we get caught up in being very human. That's why we're here, for the human experience. So I hope I haven't said to people, I'm awakened, because it could go away that fast if I flip somebody off or get very human. So my goal is to not fall back asleep and forget, but it's not easy when we're in a body. So awakened is knowing you're not only human and you're connected to so much more.
Yeah, beautiful. And do you feel we're always awakening to more?
I know that is our goal, but I do feel I know there are some people who will go through their entire life and not realize the soul is just nudging you to remember and realize who we are. I know this. I use this analogy a lot, but it's so apt. You can pave over a parking lot, and if a crack shows up in that, a flower may come up through it, because everything naturally seeks the light, seeks to grow. And when we keep pushing down that natural urge, we're out of balance.
Why are we so terrified of that then? Like, if so often the thought of it. Yeah, please go.
Well, it's just that, unfortunately, for us in human form, we're trained to seek pleasure and push away pain. That's a natural programming of the brain. We don't like pain, but pleasure and pain are part of our wholeness. So people will run away from feeling those less than positive emotions. And boy, I got some big lessons in that in the last month. And now I'm really starting to feel all of it, but I have some new tools that might have to go in the next book for helping me navigate the not so pleasant emotions. And boy, when you realize, don't judge what's not so positive. I'm trying not to say negative, because they're not negative. Just like a battery has a positive and a negative end, and that's not the bad end. That's what allows the flow of the power, having a positive and negative end. Mm-hmm. So if we have positive emotions and not so positive emotions, if we're allowing ourselves to feel it all and process it, now we have a fullness instead of trying to sedate that nasty stuff.
Yeah. How did you work with that in your journey? I'm just curious, like in those transitions, did you run a mile at first, or did you just kind of slowly allow it to feel it and be with it?
Mostly it's been slow and gradual as I meditated every day since 2006. And I sat as just being, and anything compared to just being without a story just really stands out. And so the more you align with just this state of connection, now the stuff that the human stuff that's not aligned with love just is so present. You don't want that anymore. There are some lessons I didn't learn. I didn't get it right at first, and those are real sudden. And when you're willing to look at those and take responsibility and heal them, then the growth is like that.
Yeah, the trajectory happens. And you mentioned the word story. And it's a tough one, I find, because I even catch myself constantly saying, is that just a story in my head, or am I imposing how I think and feel upon this, and then get caught up in it, and then I kind of diffuse myself from cut the connections, you know?
I feel how you're using story there is something that's not real, whereas like in the book, The Awakened Way, our life is a story. Anything that comes after I am is your story. You have to live a story. So we all have our stories, and that's how we came here to express the light through us, through the story. But when the story runs amok and causes more pain than pleasure, then maybe it's time for some adjustments.
So from a soul's perspective, the story itself, is that what we're learning from? Would that be a way of? Yes. I'm trying to frame it.
Hopefully, we're learning from it and growing. It's evolving from it. That's the goal. It's not, I say in the book, we didn't come here to learn lessons like it's some punishment in school and it's pass or fail. It's more like creative arts school. And we're going to say, well, what happens if I throw a little paint here? And we have to have shadow and light on a beautiful masterpiece. So it's how can I take something that's already beautiful and make it even better? And it unfolds through our stories.
Yeah.
It's the role.
Okay. And how do you develop the relationship to trust in the divine? Is it from actually having tangible experiences? Because we can get so caught up in our head and we can read about it, analyze it, think about it, but to actually live it and explore it from, the heart perspective and action from that place is...
Well, as you study how the brain works, and the brain is what's filtering out our awareness that we are love and expression, you realize that thinking through and analyzing and rationalizing is just left hemisphere stuff. You're just programmed to go that way instead of going with the right hemisphere state of flow and unity. You can activate that right brain through practices of presence and meditation, and then you're more balanced. It's perfectly fine to analyze things, but let's also know we have a choice to flow and honor and not judge.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So when it comes to soul, I'm just looking at the notes here as well. And you talk about overcoming our belief systems as well.
BS. That's what I call
it. I know. When BS. I saw BS, I thought the BS system was a good job you had that in brackets, because I would have completely misinterpreted that one.
Well, you're supposed to at first. It's supposed to get your attention and go, what is she saying? And then you laugh, because if we can't laugh at our own BS, then we're stuck, right? That's sleeping behavior,
Yeah. So how do we overcome them from your perspective and using the awakened way? Because you're entwined in them, right? Like,
you are until you realize you're not only the story. So in a brief meditative practice like I offer in the book, The Sip of the Divine, 3 minutes a day, where you observe what's arising in the mind. You don't try to quiet the mind. You sit and you watch it, and you start to notice how your thoughts are the same. You start to hear your BS, and then you can feel, is that helping me or hindering me? And you realize, wait a minute, what part of me is actually able to watch my mind? Is it my mind or a higher mind? And so this just starts the process of shifting from experiencer to observer, and ultimately to know we're all of it.
Yeah. And then once we start observing the belief systems, they can be very hard to I guess, change or in place a new
Not
belief?
Not necessarily, because the way the system works, the process is, if you first, let's realize we're not alone in this. When we do the sip of the divine and you sit quietly for 3 minutes, you connect at the heart and say, I'm trusting that there are higher beings here with me. Help me, guide me. What do I need to know now? And you start to get advice. Then you carry that practice to your normal waking consciousness. Hey, am I missing something here? What do I need to know right now? We can get to the point where we are so guided in everything. And so when you realize you're not alone and you have help, changing your BS is very easy, but we have to make the choices to change.
And one thing that stood out for me, what you shared there, was about asking for help as well. I think so often we don't do that.
Well, and that's the thing. You said you learn to trust. You learn to trust by asking. Then you notice a thought, which at first you start to think it's just your thoughts. Then you realize they're so helpful, and you wouldn't have gotten that guidance if you hadn't asked. And now you're just saying, maybe if I ask some more, I'll get some more guidance. And it's like a snowball. It just picks up to the point where you don't forget things anymore, because things are put in your head. Hey, don't forget this. You go and make choices. You do this instead of that, and it works, and you learn to trust.
Yeah. I often, and I'd love your thoughts on this, because you work directly with spirit. And do we all have guides and assistants? And I often think
we do,
because my left analytical brain sometimes goes, well, there's over 8 billion people on the planet. That's a lot of guides, that are supporting.
But you're thinking in physical form.
No, of course I am.
An infinite consciousness. They're not taking up space, and it's their joy, and they are also evolving, and we're all part of this process of evolution. So they take us on as their mission, and they grow by helping us, but they can't help us unless we start asking for help. It's kind of the way it works. Yeah.
And
people say, I'm sorry, they say that, I don't feel my spirit guide. Well, do you feel the hair on your head? Not until the wind blows and gets your attention. They've always been part of your life. They're so part of your energy field, you may not recognize them. But I have an exercise in the book where you ask them to step out of your field and see if you notice a difference.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. So people can, because I feel like when I go into meditation or hold space, I feel them come in.
Oh, and good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Like once you have that experience, it's like, wow, nobody can undo that, because it's not just knowledge, it's a direct experience, which is powerful.
Can I share with you a tool that people can use when you feel a presence, or even if you don't? If you want to trust you have a guide and you ask a question in an expanded state, what do I need to know now? If you get some guidance, you can always put them to the test. Say, what will you show me to validate this interaction? That's the sign game. What sign are you going to send me to validate this interaction? And I did this once. I knew my guides were here, but I play the game all the time because it's magical the way it comes up. And my guides showed me a watermelon. Now, that's a very strange thing. It's kind of ordinary, but I don't ever buy watermelons, maybe once, twice a year. It's just not a common thing. So I thought, well, how's a watermelon going to come up in my life in the next 24 to 48 hours? So you put it out of your mind. You deliberately don't go seeking a watermelon. And this was a pretty profound lesson my guides had given me. So I was eager to have this watermelon validation. The day was almost over, and I just suddenly had this idea, which I know now came from my guides, to just pull up my laptop and see what was on TV on the laptop, because I don't watch much TV. And I was led to a news program that I haven't watched in years. And I started surfing, and I said, oh, there's that news story that happened just an hour from where we live. So I started watching it. In the first 5 minutes, they said, and this murder happened here in this town. You may know this town. I'd never heard of it, because we have an annual watermelon festival. I gasped. And for the next minute, they showed one picture after another. The watermelon on the town water tower, the watermelon headlines, the welcome to the watermelon capital of South Carolina pictures. I mean, it was in my face watermelons, so much so that I went out and I bought a little plastic watermelon that's sitting across the room to remind me that how much fun it is to play the sign game. But I have to tell you, there was an extra piece of magic with this one. My guide said, get up and go in your husband's study. It's this clear when you really establish a relationship, guys. So I go in there and they said, open the cabinet. I open the cabinet and there's a box of for things my dad, who's long deceased, used to collect. It's been collecting dust in the cabinet. It's first day covers. Do you know what those are?
No.
They're envelopes. When a stamp comes out in any country, the postal system puts it on an envelope, and it's the first day of issue of that stamp. Wow. And collectors collect these first day covers. So this was a box of my dad's first day covers. There must have been 300 of them in this box. My guide said, pull one out. So I reach into this box I haven't been in years. I've never looked at all of them. Out comes the first day cover. I turn it over, and the stamp is a watermelon. What are the chances of that? I have it right here because it's one of my little miracles. 300 or so cards, and I didn't even know what's in there. And I reached in, and it's a stamp, and I was guided there by the guides. If you can't tell, I get a little excited to this day, but the miracles happen all the time because we play.
Yeah, beautiful. But you really have to be open to it.
But why wouldn't we open ourselves to this? It's a benevolent universe. It helps us grow and evolve. It brings more joy and love in our world. So everybody go out and play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. We get so caught up in our own stuff sometimes. We actually forget to actually play and have fun, which I think is critical, which my children remind me all the time. Good. Which I'm very fortunate about. Good. Yeah. Never take things too seriously. That's for sure. When working with, I'm interested as well with when it comes to relatives and people that have passed on and that direct connection. Why, like from your experience and working with spirit and that coming through, why would we want to connect if we want to? And how does that support us on our evolution?
Why would we want to connect?
Yeah. What have you found? Yeah.
From our human viewpoint, this is my stepdaughter, Susan. She was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. She was struck and killed by lightning in 2006. To have the chance to talk to her again, knowing she can't come back in the body, that's the why. To have a chance to know she's okay, that I'll see her again, that's the why. And then to get evidence that she really does still exist and can literally talk to us now, but not with a voice box, is life-changing. Life-changing. So I talk to people in deep grief. I went to a conference of the organization Helping Parents Heal. There were 1,000 people there whose children are across the veil. Wow. I would say at least 36 people came up to me and said, Suzanne, your work saved my life. Not changed it, saved it. Because they were in that place where they just wanted to join their kids across the veil. They wanted off the planet. And to get evidence, I didn't necessarily give every one of them a reading. They watched programs like yours, Guy. And to get the hope that their kid is still alive, their child. But then to go from hope to knowing from the vast amount of evidence that those across the veil will give us, that's why I do this work. And it's because I know what it feels like to want to know love never dies.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I mean, I knew the answer to the question, but I wanted to ask it because I feel sometimes we carry so much pain and we can be closed off to source, especially when we're in pain and we don't actually stop to just drop into the potential of who we are.
Well, I had a good lesson in that from a dear friend of mine who lives around the corner. Her daughter is across the veil, and I love doing meditation, and the Sip of the Divine is an easy one that's 3 minutes long. It's on my website. It's in the book. It's on YouTube. But I didn't realize that some people shy away from a practice like that because they're afraid of the feelings that will come up. I didn't know because that wasn't my experience. I just went in hoping to connect with Susan, and I ultimately did. But Irene, my friend, told me that she was so afraid that the grief would overwhelm her if she sat quietly for even a minute. And the grief was so painful, it would make her panic. So she was panicking all the time. And she finally said, I surrender. I give up. I can't handle this. I surrender. And then she went into meditation, and having surrendered, all of a sudden the grief came up and she just watched it. She said because she was willing to watch it for just a minute, it went poof, and it just dissolved. Now, it came back later, but she realized if I just sit with it, it will dissolve more each time. And then she got to the point where she received the gift of meditation, of opening her awareness, and now she hears from her daughter and others quite well. So if you're willing to tolerate some discomfort as emotions come up in the silence, it's like somebody blows cigar smoke in your face. Very unpleasant, but it will blow through. It'll go by. Everything passes. This too shall pass. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I ponder on, I mean, I've lost a parent and people close to me, and I've had many people on the podcast and good friends that have lost someone extremely close, and I think, oh my gosh, how could I it's hard to relate. And then when holding space and people are going through a grieving process like that, it's I don't think there's any words that can be said when, like you say,
well, there are words actually. There are words. I've learned that we just say, when the grief wells up, you just say, that's love. That's love. Yeah. And then I appreciate the fullness of this experience, because from that pain, believe it or not, some of the greatest joy ever comes after the pain's not quite so deep. The learning, the growth, it's stunning.
Yeah. When speaking about grief, and let's take grief to, it could be any pain. It could be guilt. It could be shame. Like, they're all emotions that serve us, but if we stay in them all the time, they don't. Then would you say it's the resistance to the feeling itself is causing the pain?
Oh, yeah. It's like, think of a pot on the stove that's simmering and the lid's on and it has nowhere to go. It's going to keep simmering and then it boils over. So if we just vent that and let it out without resistance, it goes away. It really does. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't come back, but it doesn't need to come back now because you're allowing. Yeah. A really beautiful tool my guides gave me over a decade ago is the phrase, isn't that interesting?
There you go.
This comes from the soul, the higher perspective that doesn't judge, doesn't label. Just, that's a neutral observer phrase right there. It works for everything to just say, isn't that interesting? I appreciate the fullness of this experience.
Yeah, I love it. That's something I use myself. Isn't that interesting? I might have picked it up from the last podcast. I don't know, but it's something I use a lot. Yeah.
So and it works for little stuff like you drop your sandwich on the floor, and big stuff like somebody hits your car. It works for everything. Just gets you to that place where there's a pause and you can say, I'm going to choose the highest possible response to this one instead of my normal reactions. That's how you retrain the BS.
Yeah, totally. So in your book as well, The Awakened Way, and I'm curious to know what you said, was it from looking at it living life from a soul's perspective. Because I feel quite often in our life, we get caught up in the materialistic. We want these things and pleasurable, which is great. I mean, I but at the same time, sometimes it keeps us distracted from what's wanting to come through here. And one thing I see a lot of with people is like they keep asking them, they get to a point in their 40s or 50s going, now what? What's my purpose? My kids have left home, my career, it sucks. I've done enough of this direction. I don't know what to do. So for me, what you're sharing in your book feels like a solution to
it
honoring
is, because
that.
this is a natural progression of our soul. We come here knowing that the story, it's like the hero's journey. The story is going to include, the childhood experiences. Most people have some kind of wounding before age 7 because we're interacting with other humans who are wounded themselves. Then we have the painful adolescence. Then we create a family. That's part of it. We learn through these interactions. We push each other's buttons to provide learning opportunities. You have the career, and you get to make choices and interact with people. Then all of that, you've had all that practice, and now what? Now you're ripe to dive into this kind of thing. Now you're not so drawn into the story. You have time to say, I'm going to take all those experiences. What have they taught me? What can I do with this? And you start questioning. There's a section in the book about self-inquiry. We don't ask those deeper questions when we're caught up in the career and the family. But when you suddenly have all this time and you say, what is the meaning of life? Is this all there is? Who am I really? And then you don't just ask it like that. You say, what if there is a guide? I'm going to ask you, why am I here? What is the meaning of life? Now you're going to start getting answers. And the whole rest of your life becomes, wow, this adventure instead of drudgery. I guarantee it.
Well, what do you think is that last, if the soul is on a hero's journey, if that is kind of pre-scripted to a degree, I don't know if I'm using the right words here, that we do have to planned. Yeah. And we come in and we have to go through this. That's the only way it's going to be embodied.
We have to. It's just, that's the norm. There are many, many different ways. Like my stepdaughter passed at age 27. She didn't go through the whole journey, but because we're all connected, she's helping us in our journey. It all flows together. Yeah.
So that last section, as the soul wakes up, then what is the soul's purpose? Do you feel like, in terms of the connection and even the contribution to the universe itself, like the entwinement of it all?
Shine your light as brightly as possible, to create and evolve, to leave here shining even more brightly than you, the soul, came in here. And so as we literally radiate more light in our aura, that affects everyone, like turning up dimmer switches all around the world. So as we are helping the entire species as we grow in expressing our true nature, which is love. It sounds Pollyanna, but everybody complains. Why do we still have wars? Well, are you loving yourself? It starts at home. Can you love your neighbor? Most people can't, because they only see the story. But if we come from the soul, and I see that story is unfolding because that person doesn't realize they're a soul. If I see the soul in them, perhaps it'll come out more and they can start creating and evolving as well. We help each other, but we don't have to. We're all perfectly whole and fine at the level of the soul. It's part of the adventure, truly. That's a big shift for people to make. We don't come here to change the world. We come here to experience the fullness of it, and hopefully, as we change, the world evolves.
What? Yeah, definitely. Where do you think the world is at right now? Do you think that we are all like
we're teenagers.
It's like dominoes?
We're teenagers. Yeah. Cavemen were the babies, and then we went through childhood. And as a whole, on average, we're in the adolescence of evolution of the species. We got a ways to go, but we're evolving.
Yeah. because it feels like, especially as a podcaster and on YouTube and things like that, that there seems to be a lot of talk around everything shifting at the moment, and we are starting to connect and respond to that higher level of consciousness, that aspect of a more awakened way. And
yes,
I certainly hold hope. Yeah.
You should. You should. My guides joke that we've gone from the dark ages to the dim ages, but that's an improvement.
Yeah, totally. So keeping it practical for people then, and I'd be interested to know I'm sure your practices have evolved over the years as you've grown in experience. And for people, where would be a great place to start if people are in that position now? It's like, I'm ready to live a more awakened way. I want to start taking steps, but I feel lost.
I mean, I know it sounds silly, but really read the book, because it has over 24 practical tools. It has the foundational information in the first part, and the second part is practical tools to right away start living the awakened way. Hopefully people will have some ahas and some I get it now moments, because my goal is to put things in very simple terms and use metaphors so we really understand who we are. And then all kinds of practical tools, like little reminders that you put around the house. Like, why do you think I had this postcard so handy? This is to remind me we do have guides. They are here to help you. A little note right here on my computer, shift. I'm doing this interview. Do I want you to talk only to the Suzanne story, or how about Suzanne merged with her guides? That's going to come out better. So you'd think this is second nature, that I remember beforehand to stop and say, hey guys, help me in this interview. But just in case, I got a little reminder, because I am also human. So that kind of thing. Waking up in the morning and where you brush your teeth, have a little reminder there. Start your day with gratitude. All these practical things help us retrain the brain. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity, right? You're not stuck in your current patterns. How's that working for you, right? I like to say there is a better way, the awakened way.
Yeah. This question just came, the thought popped in my mind, and and I don't want to put you on the spot, but with the guides that you connect to, like knowing there's an audience of thousands of people be listening to this, is there something that they would want to share, or is it that comes intuitively to you for the people listening that might be in that place right now?
My lip just started to twitch here, and they always twitch my lip. And they're saying that there are many of you who will think that this is BS in the way that you humans understand that term. And that's okay. They don't judge us at all. What do you say? We are as close as your breath, but until you're willing to turn and look and ask us, you will remain in the dark. So it's, again, just being willing to open and play. Now I've switched back to me, but it was just that brief. Yeah. It's okay that you're skeptical, but they love to be put to the test.
Yeah.
The evidence.
Beautiful. Yeah, totally. No, I found it took me years to really start to, it started off listening to Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, Deepak Chopra. I had a CD player, I would sit and I'd contemplate and just slowly seeping in, and then it would be challenging all my belief systems, thinking, no, surely not possible. But then just through that, it's self-inquiry. And interestingly enough, it was the pain of loneliness, of having people around me, but still feeling very lonely, that there was something not allowing me to connect deeper with people, whatever, some belief system at the end of the day that was embodied.
Yeah.
And over time, like you say, then that it starts to want to show itself, and it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I know that emptiness, and that's why I say that this path that we're on takes you from an emptiness that you really feel you can't fill to a fullness that sometimes you just can't contain. I was getting ready to teach a class with the Shift Network yesterday, and I meet with the course organizer and the tech person beforehand, before we go on the air. And I knew it was bubbling up, and I looked at him. I said, I just love you both so much. We don't normally say that to business associates and other people, but sometimes you just have to spew it all over everyone. I wasn't like that in the past. You didn't talk about this before, but I have that Navy career. The Navy officers, we don't go up to people and say, oh, I love you so much. I don't say it to everybody all the time, but my soul feels it. And what a difference from the past. I would never go back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. And another question that's coming in that I just want to even create a discussion around is one common feedback I get from people as well is like they do feel alone on this journey, though. They feel like they might be married to someone, or they're in a relationship, or their friends all think they just have no understanding, and then it's just me, and I'm doing this all by myself. And obviously they find podcasts like this and start creeping in. Yeah. But what's your experience been with that? And then
this is why we're building an Awakened Way community. Find your people. It's okay if your partner doesn't believe or isn't where you are. I find that more often than not. I find people in rural areas that are in that position that you said.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the internet. I teach classes with the Shift Network, and I just heard today from people that said, I met people in the breakout rooms 4 years ago, and we still meet weekly. We just love each other. So ask the universe to help you find your peeps, right? Help me find a community. When I came out of the Navy, I had very few female friends. I was always in this man's environment. I said to my husband, I dream of having a circle of women friends. And it was when I started on this spiritual path, one day I was invited to this luncheon with these ladies I'd met, and we were at this circular table, and I said, oh my God, I manifested this. I have this circle of women friends now. And so, whatever your goal is regarding relationships, people of like-minded thought in this arena, ask the universe to show you the perfect way to find your group. Small, big, you'll know it when you land there. And just, your program like yours, Guy, and your groups that you lead in person every month, that's a haven for us.
1,000%. And I just find sometimes people almost feel they're not worthy sometimes to be gifting themselves this, to actually come into a group like this, or whatever it might be, and put themselves last, or feel that sense of unsafety, or the thought of going into a room full of strangers is terrifying,
But when you get in a group like this, the love that's present is healing. I have 2 members of my community here, friends. We've been going out to dinner with my husband, and I taught a class in person on personal mediumship last month, and I invited them as my guests. And halfway through the first day, they came up to me and they said, we've never been in a group of people like this. Yet everybody was new. They were not new to the Awakened Way community, but they were all meeting for the first time. And I said, that's love. These people here, they get it. They know we're souls here to express who we really are. And it's contagious.
Big time. That's why I love what I do, and getting out there, it's incredible. And it really is keeping the door open enough for people to know when they're ready to take that step. They generally lean in and think, geez, I should have done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it might be. Yeah, no, exactly. It's always meant to be. I got some questions I want to ask you, that I ask everyone, well, not everyone on the show, but it comes up from time to time, just to get to know you a little bit more. And one is, what does your morning routine look like?
Oh my gosh. It's almost rigid, which it shouldn't be.
Oh, is it?
It is. My husband and I, also 26 years in the Navy for Thai. We get up, we take the dogs out right away so they can have their morning routine. We come back inside, the 2 of us walk to the bed, make the bed, brush our teeth. Then Ty goes and starts making breakfast, and I head upstairs to this room to meditate. And our 2 dogs lead the way, and they sit under the chair while I'm meditating. They're little. They love the energy. The second I take out my earbuds and put them in the case, the dogs know that's the sign. Now we get breakfast. And they go running down the stairs. They get fed. I sit on the couch and I type up the message that I get every morning from Spirit. And I put it on my Awaken Way app. I put it on my website and Facebook. And I look at my husband and I say, it's posted. And he puts the eggs on. I mean, and then we eat breakfast. So then from there, it's okay. Then from there, the day goes however it will. But that just ensures that I start the day with my number one priority, and that is connecting with Spirit. And then gifting whatever message I got from them in the Awaken Way message by getting it posted every day. I've done that for years. And so that's actually sacrosanct, that ritual. It's sacred. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. It's funny.
But I have to tell you something funny. Could I tell you something funny?
Of course.
When I go on the road and travel, and my husband stays here with the dogs. He's not a big meditator. He just started this month. I don't know if it'll catch for him, but he will come up here to my meditation room and sit in my chair and read the news so the dogs can have their ritual. He's a sweetheart. I don't know what kind of energy is coming off the news, but the dogs.
So just touching on that then, like, because I'm sure a lot of people listening will relate to then having partners. So does your partner, you just said he just started meditating. Was that correct?
Yeah, but I think he's not ready to feel those feelings that are coming up. That's why I have my eyes opened. Yeah.
Yeah. And what does he feel about what you do? Is it just like, go for it, great, and then, but doesn't 100%. Understand it, or does he understand it? Or
he completely understands it. He's still very left brain, but he's so supportive of me. He used to have a blog of all of our travels, and it was really funny and people loved it. But when everything became so divisive, he took a hard stand of his own, and he realized that he couldn't write his blog without stating strong opinions, and he realized that might cause people to think wrong of me, even though we are different of different space on many things. And so he stopped writing his blog just for me. Wow. So I couldn't have asked for more support than that. Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah, no, beautiful. Beautiful. I was going to say my morning routine is completely blown up since having the second baby. He's 4.5 months old now, and it's like, but it's been a really interesting journey for me to having to just let go to all the things and just be present. I think the podcast is the only time where I actually have a bit of structure, knowing I get up early for this and record and come in, and I meditated beforehand. But yeah. It's funny. Yeah. Another question for you. If you could have dinner with anyone from any time frame, past, present, and sit down and have a conversation and dinner with someone, who would it be and why?
That's so funny, because I started to think, and the first person that came to mind was Jesus. And then I said, wait, I talk to him all the time. And then I thought about somebody else, and I said, but I've talked to him. And I can't answer that question, because I know that any of us can converse real time and get answers from anyone. So it would probably be somebody who's still alive, because I wouldn't invade their privacy by meeting them in meditation. That would be soul to soul. Could I answer? Let me see who I might want to talk to in person here now. Probably Deepak Chopra. I love the way he's connected and so gets it all. I've admired him for years.
It'd be cool. Yeah. That's interesting that you say that. I think sometimes, so from a soul to soul level environment, we could speak to anyone. So
you can. That's what I teach people, and you can ask for evidence when you make that connection. They tell you things you don't know about them. You go online, you find it's true, and you say, oh my God, but your soul already knows that was real, because you can feel their presence and it's interactive.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Last question for you is that we've. It's like, what are you going to ask me next? No,
Exactly.
no, we've covered a lot of ground today, and the conversation and regarding the awakened way as well. But with everything we've covered, what would you like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
And it's always different because I always tune in, and the guides say for this listening audience, it is shift first and be the observer. And then ask that child in the body, why is it you still feel unworthy? Be willing to ask. And then be open for what arises. Don't be afraid because it can hurt you. Just be willing to ask the question and then ask for help from above in accepting what comes up, loving what comes up, and then asking for healing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So Susan, thank you. So this has been recorded before your book is released, but when does your book come out and where can
April
people
30th.
get it from?
You can pre-order it, but actually by the time this podcast comes out, it's already available. So on any online booksellers, and then hopefully in bookstores not too long after that, because it's from Hay House, and they have stores in Australia and India, all over the world. So just go on your major booksellers or see it on my website, and there it is. April 30th available.
Yeah, congratulations again. And I just love your no BS approach when you come on.
Mm-hmm. That's probably the Navy background, boy. Put it all out there. Thank you, guys.
No, it was fun. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming back on, and I've no doubt people will get a lot out of this and support you and grab a copy of your book. And I look forward to jumping into it myself. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Welcome. Bye-bye, everybody.
Much love. Thank you.